FIR should be registered against podcaster Ranveer Allahbadia. Sir, how do you see this case and what is your comment on this?
Well, the matter is currently sub judice before the Supreme Court, so we will not comment on the merits of the case. But practically speaking, this particular matter raises a fundamental issue as to what is obscenity, how much content on the social media or on electronic platforms can be considered as obscene, and what's going to be the responsibility of the people who are publishing or transmitting such content. Now, as for that, the law is very clear. We have Section 67 of the Information Technology Act 2000, which deals with the offence of obscenity in the electronic ecosystem. Look, it's important to note that while we talk about obscenity in a layman's language, Section 67 does not use the word obscene. Instead, it talks about three fundamental things. Somebody must either publish or cause to be published or transmit or cause to be transmitted electronic information that is lascivious or which appeals to the prurient interests, or the effect of which is to tend to deprave and corrupt the minds of those who, having regard to the relevant circumstances, are likely to see, read or hear the same. So the thumb rule is, the law has still not given us a definition of what's obscenity, because each case will have its own facts to determine what is obscenity. But the fundamental rule of Hicklin test of the 1830s, which was adopted by the Privy Council, has been adopted first in the Indian Penal Code and then has been now adopted under the IT Act, which is what's going to be the effect of this kind of information on the minds of people who are likely to see, read or hear the same. Now clearly, when you're going to talk of parental sex to children and their reactions to the same, it's a very, very touchy subject. It's obviously going to come within the ambit of Section 67 of the IT Act. Now, in certain cases, it can even be argued that this is actually content which is having explicit sexual kind of a content. And that being so, even Section 67A of the IT Act could be attracted. So while the matter is sub judice, the important thing is the Supreme Court has once again reiterated that you may be popular, you may be the most, shall I say, the relevant person in media today, but that does not give you a license to speak about something, to publish content which goes against the sensibilities of the community and society. And that being so, while interim relief has been granted, the fact is the law will take its own course. The matter has to be appropriately investigated. But yes, no further FIRs as per Supreme Court order. And so long as there's going to be cooperation by the concerned petitioner with the law enforcement agencies, the law will take its own normal course. So there's been a protection that's been given to the petitioner in this case. But this is only interim. The rest, everything will depend upon what kind of relevant electronic evidence is going to be collected by the police in this kind of a matter, and how it will be produced and proved in a court of law as per the requirements of the Bharatiya Saksha Adhiniyam 2023. So it's a very interesting case. Well, traditionally I've seen in the last almost 25 years, while the IT Act has been enforced, there's a distinct hesitancy of the police to register cases under Section 67 of the IT Act. This is so because it's a bailable offence, punishable only with 3 years imprisonment, 5 lakh rupees fine. So the police also does not tend to give much focus on this. But because in this kind of a matter, there was so much of reactions of the people to the content which was generated. That's the reason the police has registered these cases. We also as a nation have not been very successful in getting convictions in cases of obscenity in the electronic ecosystem. India's conviction rate is less than 1%. So it will be interesting to see how this matter proceeds and what kind of twists and turns this matter is likely to go in courts of law.
Also, Supreme Court asked the center if it is want to do something about obscene content on YouTube. We would like to do something. If the government is willing to do something, we are happy. Otherwise, we are not going to leave the Wacom and Barren area the way it is being misused by so-called YouTube channel and YouTubers, sir. So how do you see?
Well, clearly this particular issue is telling us that the political will is missing. There's so much of obscenity content that's available on reels and social media that people are beginning to make lose a distinction between what's decent versus what's not decent. You can't really say that our communal standards or community standards have eroded, and that's the reason why that gives you a license to publish content which is obscene. But having said that, the onus will still lie on the government as to how strongly can it come in, number one, enforce existing provisions of law, being Section 67 of the IT Act. Number two, overcome the hesitancy of the police to register cases for obscenity under Section 67 of IT Act. And number three, a bigger thing, we must focus the liability of the service provider. Ultimately, all this content on social media is being made available on certain platforms. The platform owners cannot say, I will close my eyes and I cannot be held responsible. The very fact that the platform owner is providing the platform, it's his duty under the IT Rules 2021, specifically Rule 3, to make sure that its users do not use the platform for publishing content which is pornographic. And because most of the platform owners are not really fulfilling their mandatory duties, these kind of cases are beginning to come up. So if there's going to be political will, and in case if you're going to take a strong action against intermediaries for their failure to remove obscene content, that can also give a long kind of a message to the community at large. And ultimately, it's all about sensitizing people. There's no point in playing with fire when you know that the law publishes, makes the publication or transmission of obscene content as an offense. But if there's not going to be effective enforcement, then the law will only be a paper tiger and people will continue to keep on flouting it.